Well, good evening, everybody, and how are we all doing today? It is Sunday, the 5th of January, 2025. Yep, it is a brand new year, the first Sunday of 2025, the first live show of 2025. Hope you're all feeling good. Hope you've all had a great new year. It certainly feels good to be in the new year. Weirdly, normally I don't find that when the years change, nothing really changes. But this year, I'm suddenly feeling a little bit more positive, a little bit more energetic. I think just having a bit of time off over Christmas has helped. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is hydroponic gardening. So if anybody out there has got a hydroponic gardening or does some hydroponics, then please say I. But I guess we need to know, first of all, if anybody is out there. And yes, we've got Adrian saying hello to Richard and all. Hello to you. Kate is there saying hello to the Veg Army. Hello to you. Ballycillian, hello everyone. Good evening to you. Turbo Stream, good evening, Veg Podcasters from a still snowy Birmingham. We've not had any snow here. It's been heavy, heavy rain. But what has it been like where you are? Adrian, no snow in East Anglia, answering my question straight away. Over on Instagram, Jenny Wren in the garden. Hello, everyone. I hope you are all well and have had a chance to get outside. Indeed. Hargrave Gas, evening, everyone. Hope you've all had a great week. I will learn a lot for this week because I know nothing about hydroponics. It's a good conversation to join in then. Scott, good seat to table plot 13. Good evening, all. Digwell again trying to culture us. Daiwanawaga. Greetings in Huttonese, Jabba the Hutt's language. Did I pronounce it right? Did I get my Star Wars, sorry. Yeah, Star Wars, correct. Gary is there. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. Hope you are well. Stuart is there. Evening, Richard and the Veg Army. Hope you're all dry and safe. And Anna Jones is there saying good evening, gardeners. And Rebecca is also there. If I bring her up, good evening, all. Good evening to you. And Digwell says, perfect. I've got my Huttonese, Jabba the Hutt's language down. I'm quite pleased with that. I'm quite pleased. Anna Jones says it's tipping it down with rain in the northeast, but no snow. And Chili Cake says, hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, too. Stuart Jackson, Happy New Year to all. Can't wait to learn more tonight. And yes, it's a mess garden. Hi, Richard and chat. Good evening to you. Jenny Wren over on Instagram. It says, I have never tried growing hydroponics. I have to root things in water, but never grown a plant. So I think this is a good opportunity to start the she came over onto YouTube now. She's left Instagram and over onto YouTube. But Team Ararat has joined over on Instagram. So I guess the first thing to start is, what is your definition of hydroponic gardening? Hydroponic gardening for me is the method of growing plants in a soilless system. It usually uses a nutrient-rich water that is usually pumped around, and the roots just find all the nutrients and all the things that they need from that water, as opposed to growing in soil. Now, to me, this always seemed a little bit backwards. We're always told that when we grow plants in waterlogged soil, when it's too wet, it has a tendency to let the roots rot. But this doesn't necessarily seem to be the case in hydroponics. So for me, that is the definition of hydroponics. We're growing it in a soilless system. So going back to the chat, Kate says, I've got a new Let Pot system at Christmas. Let Pot, I think, is a manufacturer. And had one previous that sadly broke, but I love it. The plants I started off in there were much, much stronger. Stuart Jackson says, I'm really looking forward to learning about a new way of gardening, as I have never done it before. Excellent, excellent. I've got to admit, so I dabbled a bit in hydroponic gardening in the past. I have had hydroponic systems in the past that were not very good. I brought this one here that we're going to play around with a bit tonight from Gardener's World Spring Fair in May last year. I had it down in the kitchen. I grew basil in it, and it actually turned out to be very, very successful. Now, what made this one successful compared to my one in the past? This bit here is a light. And my one in the past, I had to manually turn on and off the light every day, which was just a little bit annoying. This one, I turn on the light once, and if I turn it on at the right time, it will basically, the light will stay on for 18 hours and then off for the remaining 8 hours, and then comes back on automatically. So it's a case of set it once and don't have to worry about it. That for me was a big thing that I thought made my life much easier with hydroponics. All I then had to do when I was growing basil in it was just keep an eye on the plants, keep an eye on the water levels, and whenever I had to top up the water levels, I also had to top up with the nutrients, which just, these are the nutrients that it came with. You just simply add a small amount of this to the water, and that would feed the plants. The basil in it grew really, really well. I have to say, we did quite a bit of basil out of it. That was all growing inside our kitchen. The downside, however, we did get quite a few bugs on it, and it was dropping quite a lot of this sort of sticky liquid around the unit itself as well. But there's ways and means that we can deal with that. Just quickly, over on Instagram, the Scottish guy that treads has joined and says, evening all, good evening to you. So Jenny says, I think I've missed my connection to the soil if I grew in hydroponics. So one of the main advantages, I think, with growing in hydroponics, one, you can do it if you do not have any outdoor space. If you've got no garden, you can easily grow in a hydroponic system. But also, there's no weeding involved, so you save a lot of time as well. And just one or two of the advantages that I can think of hydroponics. Anna Jones says, my only venture into hydroponics is rooting a few cuttings into rock wool cubes. Good for herbs and fruit bush cuttings. Cuttings rarely rot. That's a very good point, isn't it? I was thinking about the roots rotting away in waterlogged soil, but you've just made a very, very good point that rootings very rarely rot. Just need a quick swig of coffee there. Digwell says, let pot make probably the best systems around at present. What makes them so good? What makes them so good? I'd love to find out more about what makes let pot so good. Yes, it's a mess garden. Says, I have a couple of small Aero gardens that I've started strawberry seeds. They're doing well. Is Aero gardens another manufacturer, or is there something different about those type of hydroponics? Please do let me know. Bethan says, evening all, happy new year everyone. Happy new year to you. I've got your email, I've got your pictures. Thank you much, Bethan. I will get back to your email once I finish the show as well. Bunny Cillian, happy new year, Bethan. Digwell says, I used to use a plug-in timer with the older systems. The trouble, my old system, the plug-in timer was no good. I did try it, but the switch on it, it wasn't the type that you switched it on and it stayed on, sorry. If it lost power, it stayed off until you had to manually press the button again. So a timer was no good. It was just no good. Does that make sense? I think I've spoken about this before, and I've always struggled to explain. The switch is no power, it falls to off. I think it's the best way to explain it. Scott says, never done it before, but I got a hydroponics kit for my father-in-law. He's not a gardener, but loves watercress and now grows some lovely watercress. Now, I've been thinking watercress would be lovely to grow in a hydroponic system. I quite like watercress. We eat quite a bit of it, actually. But I do grow watercress in my mini pond as well outside. So would we do that in hydroponics? I might do it. I might give it a try. Kate says, I just shared a post that I did back in 2023 in a Facebook group. It shows the difference between normal soil and hydroponics with my sunflowers this year. I'll have to try and have a look when we've got one of the videos and see what that's about. Bethan says my click and grow unit has a built-in timer and comes on automatically for 16 hours, then off for 8 hours. That for me is an important part. And Bethan's actually sent us a couple of photos of her click and grow unit. So this is the first photo. Can't quite see it, but this is the plants growing in her click and grow. I can't see it on my screen, is what I'm saying. Yeah, the plants growing in her click and go, which look absolutely fantastic, and you can see healthy growth. I believe these photos were just taken less than an hour ago. Now this is the actual unit that Bethan is also talking about. As you can see, it's quite a large unit with plenty of room for quite a few plants, and I believe, and certainly looking at it, it's been a very, very successful investment. It seems to do quite well. One of the real advantages I'm seeing with it is that we can grow things like tomatoes indoors at this time of year and it'll be successful. So again, I'm hoping somebody's going to back my theory up on that. Turbo Stream says, I've not tried hydroponics, not really on my radar, to be honest. We'll listen with interest. Yeah, don't knock it. Don't knock it. Apparently the audio keeps cutting out. I can't see anything on my end. Everything seems to be okay here. I'll keep an eye on it. I'll keep an eye on it and see what happens. And Kate says, I only start my plants and move them onto the soil later. Starts a great root system. And love my let pot. I can set the time and even control it from my phone. Funny enough, some of the more expensive and newer hydroponics, I know you can have apps that you can also control them with, which I think are really, really good idea as well. Certainly moving it on to the modern world and all the things going on with smart technology and things like that. I don't think it's a bad thing to not grow or to move on with the times. Digwa says aero gardens are great. They use a watering system that no one else uses by dripping water down onto the roots. Interesting. And Anna says Jiffy plugs are good for soilless cuttings too, and there's some new ones called Root Riot plugs that contain bark. Never tried them. I've seen those Root Riot ones. They're little squares of compressed compost that you can grow stuff in. They seem to be looking quite good. I've seen them for a few years. I've never bought them because I'm a little bit too tight like that. What have we got? Aragon, I think, recently went out of business. Okay. Stuart says sound is good his end, so okay, that's less to worry about. Rob says, good evening all. Hope you've had a good Christmas and Happy New Year. Same to you, Rob. Hope you are well. We're talking about hydroponics tonight. Scott says, audio is fine for me. Hargrave says, audio good here. So, okay, perhaps it's just Digwell then. Don't know. Jenny says, I've never used grow lights, heat mats, etc. Would I be right in thinking these kits are cheap to run like lights, etc.? Yeah, I think they are quite cheap. I don't have a smart meter to actually compare it, but we barely notice it. I do have grow lights. I do have heated propagators as well. We barely notice it in our heating bill. We, of course, would like it more efficient, but it is what it is. We grow plenty of plants. We make up for that with the amount of food that we grow. So for us, it's a sacrifice. More food covers the cost of the little electricity, but they're only a few watts. The LED lights these days are less powerful than the old night lights that we used to have in houses, plugged in and on all day sort of thing. It was hard to source in the UK for the last 5 years, very expensive. I wasn't knocking it. I know you wasn't knocking it with Turbo Stream. I know you wasn't. Just not on my radar. I know you're not. Don't worry, buddy. I'm sorry if I said something wrong. I know you're not knocking it. It's fine. I may have said something I didn't mean or didn't mean in quite that same way. So apologies for that. It's fine. It's fine. So quite a few of you do seem to have a hydroponic system from what you are saying. Is anybody thinking about getting a hydroponic system and just needs to know a few things before they make the purchase? What I'm going to throw that out there if anybody does want. I mean, always feel free to throw in your own questions at any time anyway, because it's always good to discuss these sort of things. But what I thought I would do, thank you, Turbo Stream. No offense taken. All good. Thank you. Thank you. So what I thought I would do is show you what I have to do to set up this hydroponic system. Now, this is from West Kent Hydroponics. It's the 5-pod system. So we got 5 pods, which are these sort of things, where we can grow basically 5 different plants. So this goes in and sits in the top and holds up, sits in the water. And then this is like a little bit of sponge. Now, you are meant to replace these every time you change the plants. I had my basil growing in these, but the roots and everything came out of it quite well. I have actually ordered some new sponges. I was hoping they were going to be here in time for this show. They haven't. But I'm going to reuse these sponges anyway. And they just simply drop in there. We did get with it a load of other little bits as well that I've never used. And we also had some clear plastic domes that just sit on top. Oh, if I sit here, I go out of the light. Interesting. Clear plastic domes that just sit on top of that when we are first sowing seeds. To act as a bit like a greenhouse effect, just to keep them going for a little bit more longer. But as soon as the plants germinate, we then remove that. So the important thing is, of course, we need water, which I've got a jug of water here. This unit itself holds about 1.5 litres of water, which I've got about 1.5 litres of water in that. As I said, we have to add the nutrients. And we've got A and B. I'm trying to remember now. So fill the bottle containing a solid nutrient, blah, blah, blah. Use a cap as a measuring scale. 5 ml. So we got to add about 7.5 ml, which is a cap. No, sorry. We got it on the side here, a scale of how much of this liquid nutrients we add. So we got to fill this up with about 5 ml, like so. And then we add that to the water. And then we do the same with the second nutrient. Why we got 2 nutrients, I don't know. Are these organic? I don't know, is another question. Could we use normal fertilizer? I don't know, another question. But I've got this, it came with a kit, so I'm going to use it. Now, I'm not going to bother mixing it up because once it's in there, it all goes in and the pump will do the mixing for me. So we just simply pour this liquid into there. Now, I haven't turned my hydroponic kit on at the moment because obviously when it's out of water and the pump kicks in, the pump's going to be trying to run with no water. It's going to run dry and potentially burn out. So we don't really want to do that. Okay, we might have to add some more water to that at a later date. But for now, that's okay. I'll quickly come to the comments and then we'll come back to that. So a 36-watt system, as Digras says, costs around £0.01 an hour to run. So you're looking at 24 pence an hour. It's not much money. As I said, it makes up for it with the amount of food that you can grow. I've seen some people actually harvesting tomatoes off these at this time of year. So I think the costs outweigh the benefits. As Digwell says, just buy some rock wool to use as new plugs. Damn, another secret gone. I did think of that. And in fact, Lava Light themselves have sent me some of their rock wool, as I've said before. And I could use that, but those cages are quite fine. So we may look into that in the future for different ones. Rob says, well, I have all my 12 grow lights on and the heat mats. It cost me around £1 a day. So not much at all. Hargrave does, how does hydroponics go alongside everyone wanting to be organic, etc.? Feel the chemical, even if they get organic sign off, you can probably get anything if you pay enough. So that's a good question. I don't. I mean, the trouble with the organic label, I do have problems with the organic label. I try and be organic. Um, I try and be natural, but gardening on vegetable gardening specifically by its own definition is unnatural. Yes, we use organic stuff in the garden in contact with the soil, but this is a self-contained system, so everything in there is not going to affect the soil. These, for all I know, could be organic. They're just not labeled as organic because the company themselves haven't paid for the organic label, if that makes sense. But it's a good question. Scott says, I've noticed that some high-end restaurants start to use hydroponics and some companies supplying the kits that look like the glass front fridges. Not cheap, around 10K. Yeah, I am seeing this as well. There's a lot of companies out there that are doing, they look like a large fridge, glass fronted fridge, and they're a hydroponic system, and restaurants are having them in place. They're great for growing a constant supply of herbs that a restaurant might need, and salad leaves as well. They're using a lot for that. Obviously, there are many other plants and seeds that we can grow. One of my complaints, or not so much a complaint, one of the things I think many people have these hydroponic systems in their home, they tend to grow herbs. And as I said, I grew basil in that quite successfully. But there's a Facebook group where it is all about hydroponics, and they're trying to encourage people to grow other things than herbs. So we want to sort of test the boundaries and see what else we can grow in our hydroponics. This one itself is quite small, so we are going to struggle. Digwell says the two nutrients, because calcium does not go well with other nutrient in solution in storage, so one has calcium in it. Thank you. There we go, Digwell. I knew somebody would have the answer for that. So it's all based on calcium. Stuart says, I've seen lots of kits online, but I was waiting for tonight to find out which one works best. Yeah, I mean, I only got this one because it was something like 40 quid at the show. It was the show price. I have to admit, I'm looking at some of the bigger ones. You know what I'm like? I don't like spending money, and I'm trying to retire in 10 years' time. So I'm trying not to spend money unless I really have to. But we are looking at all these things that we can. If they're a worthwhile investment, then I think it pays off. So you've got to persuade me with some of the more expensive ones. Are they worth the investment? Is one of the things I want to get out of tonight. Chili Cake says, you made an interesting comment about organic. At the moment, foods farmed hydroponically cannot be marketed as organic, except for natural water-grown produce like watercress. That's interesting. That's interesting. And Digwell also says, not sure that there is an organic hydroponic feed for indoor use. So are they organic? I don't know. This is what I love about this show, is that we go down one rabbit hole and another one opens. And are they organic? I don't know. Well, they're not organic, clearly. Not organic hydroponics. Nicholas says, evening, we'll be listening to the show. I'm doing jobs. You crack on. I hope you're not doing anything too strenuously. Chili says, my comment applies to UK, EU. Organic hydroponics is approved in the USA. So that's interesting, because I'm sure what would make them unorganic? What would make hydroponics unorganic? And I guess it can only be this stuff, because water is high organic. The plants themselves are going to be high organic. It can only be the nutrients that isn't organic. But I'm sure there will be organic nutrients on the market. Now, back to my hydroponic system. So what we got to do, I've got a little button on the top here that's a soft button. So we push and hold it, and it comes on like so. I can hear the pump running, so that's kicking it all around. This one, we do have the ability to change the light. So we've got the white light, we've got more of an amber light, we've got a bluer light, and I think there's a redder light as well. Now, grow lights do have different spectrums of lights. This applies not just in hydroponics, in any grow lights. There are different coloured lights, and they affect the plants that you're growing. Now, I'm writing a blog post about this at the moment, but I can't remember off the top of my head what the different lights are for different purposes. So there's certain lights for young plants, certain lights for ornamentals, and certain lights for vegetable plants. And I can't remember what they are off the top of my head. The ones I don't like are the purple ones. Now, the purple lights themselves seem to be very popular and they seem to do quite well. I just don't like the look of them. To me, they look too much like a bit of a drug farm type thing, but they do work. And if they end up growing good quality vegetable plants, then that's all that matters at the end of the day. Now, Digwell says almost any non-root veg can be grown in them. I do chilies, tomatoes, and no tall veg like sprouts. Could you imagine having a sprout in that? That would completely block it out. I have to admit, actually, one thing I didn't say, this light does go up and down, so I can take it lower in order to encourage much bushier plants, especially when the plants are young. It's quite an important piece. Now, Scott says, can you make your own system? Seems to be just lights and a pump to them. Yeah, you can. And you can make them a much, much larger. You may recall back end of last year, I can't remember when it was, you set me the challenge to make my own hydroponic system. And I just took a pot, filled it with water, put some pots in there with some of the lava light hydroponics, put some wool on top and sowed some seeds into that. It didn't work. It didn't work. The seeds were too dry. We didn't quite get them wet enough to work, but it's something we can think about in the future. My brother, funny enough, when I was getting married, we were trying to grow as much food as we can for our actual wedding day. And my brother made a hydroponic system that did actually work, just using thick, some big drain pipes and 2 water butts. So we made this frame, and we had these drain pipes going across that we drilled holes in and pot plants in top of that. And the water would pump out of one water butt up to the top of this drain pipe, and it would run down through all the drain pipes, making its way down. We had quite a few levels, and then back into the second water butt, which were leveled out amongst themselves. And it did actually work. We did grow some lovely tomatoes in that, but it wasn't the prettiest looking thing, is what I would say. That was the only downside. Jenny says, I guess not organic as not grown naturally and goes against soil association principles. Could be that, actually. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Digwell says they are called blurple lights. I don't like them. I don't know what it is. I don't not like them. Jenny says, I've been reading a lot on their principle recently. He's talking about the soil association. Andrew, evening all. Hey, Richard, good evening to you in Croatia. Hope you are well. Chili Kate says, the view is that organic production principles emphasize the importance of growing plants and soil to maintain soil fertility and biodiversity. Okay. But again, there are people out there who have no outdoor space but might have plenty of indoor space. Something like this would be perfect. Yes, it's a mess garden. Says, I made my own indoor fertilizer for my hydroponics. How did you make it? Please do share with us how you made it. Digwell says, yep, in the UK, organic must have their approval. Absolutely, yeah. Over on Instagram, Lynn Ward11 has joined. Welcome along. Lovely to see you. We're talking about hydroponics gardening. We're getting everybody's who grows hydroponically and who has a few ideas on what they can share on it. Anna Jones says, do the plants not grow a bit soft as opposed to outdoor plants, which are hardened off? So that is actually one of the questions I was going to throw out there, funny enough, Anna, because I know some people will say that when they grow tomatoes in hydroponics, they find that the tomatoes are much more watery, and the same with many herbs and other things. I didn't find it with the basil that I grew in mine or the salad leaves that I've grown in mine in the past, but there is a saying they do seem a bit more watery. But anybody else out there find the same sort of thing? Lynn says, hi there. Welcome along. Lovely to see you. Digwell is saying many of the principles seem to be to protect their own interests. That's I cannot tell the difference, says Digwell as well, talking about tomatoes and strawberries. So anybody out there that has grown in their hydroponics, my next question I'm going to ask you is, what have you grown in yours, and can you tell the difference? What plants have you grown in yours? And I say this because I'm not going to sow any seeds tonight. I was going to sow some seeds in this, but I want you guys to share with me a few ideas of what seeds I could sow in my hydroponics tomorrow in order to get it producing. I'm going to have it here in the background for me over the next few weeks, and we'll see it grow and produce on this live stream. But I'm thinking perhaps chilies, perhaps tomatoes. We can have up to five seeds in each one. And what would you recommend I grow in mine? But what are you growing in yours? Bethan says, I've not noticed my leaves or tomatoes being watery. So that's a very good answer. Thank you. I did not. I'm only going off what some people have said to me. Digwell says, if they did taste different, worse, then I would not use them. Yeah, Digwell's definitely like that. So it says a lot if he's still using it. Jenny says, it's an interesting read, Steve. I do like the protection of wildlife, etc. Talking about the Soil Association. Too cold for chilies without heat mats. My house is quite warm. We're about 20 degrees in here, especially upstairs. If it was downstairs in the kitchen, it's colder. Oh, sorry, my shed is quite warm. This shed that's on the second floor is quite warm. Up here, it should be fine. It's about 20 degrees, so I think it'll be okay for chilies. But we're lucky. I mean, we're lucky here. Jenny says mini tomatoes. That's what I was thinking as well. I'm not a fan of mini tomatoes in the past. I'm trying to think. Garden Pole is one that I've used in the past. And what was the other one? I can't remember the other one. I found that the mini tomatoes, the skins were really thick. But we'll give it a try. Mini tomatoes. And there was a type of mini tomato. Where was it? I think it was Garden Pole. That was suggested anyway. 27 degrees C for chili germination for Digwell. Let's give it a try, isn't it? At the end of the day, we can try. But again, it's up to you guys. What do you think I should do in mine? Over on Instagram, EB31190 has joined. Welcome along. Thank you. And lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. Kate says, tomatoes, aubergines, peas, chilies, beans grew way too fast and looked like Kew Gardens. Herbs, peppers, broccoli, and salad. So are you saying peas and beans were a big no-no on growing in your hydroponics? I like the idea of tomatoes, aubergines, and chilies, though. Herbs, peppers, broccoli, salads. I like the idea of that. I'd say my one, I think compared to yours, mine are a bit on the small side. But hey, we'll give it a try. I used, says, yes, it's a mess garden. I used leaves from moringa. Any other fresh leftover greens, coffee grounds, banana peel. I added clove, orange peel, and cinnamon sticks. It doesn't stink at all. Oh, indoor composting. Yeah, with you for the nutrients for that. Beto says, Merry Christmas, everyone. Grown or at least started peas, tomatoes, beetroot, and lettuce before transferring to the veggie pod. You're early, aren't you? You're early. Not saying it can't be done, but you're very early. Lovely to see you, Betos. Happy New Year. I hope you had a good Christmas as well. Digwell, tumble the tomatoes and let them trail down. Oh, that's good. That is good. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Moringa has all the minerals and vitamins you can think of it. I've never heard of it, so that's an interesting one. Samphire as one of the seeds. Samphire. Oh, that's an interesting one. The peas and beans just grew so big and fast that it was hard to keep them indoors when it was cold outside all the time. Interesting. My hydroponics sell their own seeds in the compost that goes in their pods. I grew tomato, rocket romaine, chilies, basil, coriander. I had 3 chilies per plant, but they were all small. Actually, that does remind me of something. So one of the first hydroponics kits that I brought was from IKEA, actually. Now, this was one that you could buy grow lights, you fixed into it. It was a tray, basically. There was no pump on that one, thinking about it. And I had several of these, and I might still have them somewhere. I might have to set those up at some point. They didn't have any heat. They were quite big, so I won't have them indoors. But yeah, the IKEA hydroponics. But one of the things I found with the IKEA ones, IKEA sold their own seeds, which they recommended to use. And does anybody who has had hydroponics in the past, have they found that ordinary seeds are just as good, or do you need to use specialist seeds? I think that's a good question to ask to everybody, actually. Do you need specialist seeds for hydroponics? Bethan says, similarly, the tomatoes had about 10 fruits on them. Excellent. That sounds good. That sounds very good. Jenny says, I love Samphire. I must grow some more. It's tasty, isn't it? It's a bit of an acquired taste, but I love it. That was last year, not started this year. Decorations to pot away first. Oh, sorry, Beddoes, I misunderstood. Excellent stuff, excellent stuff. We've grown Samphire. You couldn't grow anything else due to the salt water. That's a good point, actually, because, as you know, we do get marsh Samphire grown wild here. Do we... it does like salt water, but it would probably grow quite well now. Don't know. I've currently got some of the VGP Veg Grower Podcast aubergines in there and Digwell's sweet peas starting off. See, I like this idea of starting the seeds off in them and then transferring them. Although I think in these it could get quite expensive, but I like the idea nonetheless. Kate says, I only use regular seeds. Fantastic. Jenny says, I grow Samphire in its own pot, Digwell. I think Digwell was asking if we grew it in hydroponics. Yes, it's a mess garden. I let these things sit in the water for about a month before using it. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do with that. Give it about overnight before I sow any seeds. If I find you have to be quick using hydros to start things off, or the roots get tangled in the cages. I think that's a good point. I mean, one of the things that this does have is like a filter around the pump to stop all the roots get tangled into the pump. But I did find there was lots and lots of roots from the basil when I was checking on it. There was lots of roots in it, and it actually, it did really well with that. I was quite impressed with the root growth on these things. They were really impressive. Bethan says, I think you need specialist seeds, as I planted mini bell tomato seeds this year to see how they would grow, and they far outgrew the unit. Okay, so that's an interesting point when it comes to the seeds that Bethan has made there. That specialist seeds might be more tailored to the smaller plants. And mini bell, I think, was the tomatoes I was trying to think of earlier. Yeah, the younger, smaller plants that hydroponically might be suitable. I'm just thinking we've got a hydroponic shop down the road. I might have to pop down there. But smaller plants are probably going to be more suitable. But then I haven't seen a lady I've seen at some of the garden shows and events. I haven't seen her for a while. She was selling a large hydroponic system similar to what I described my brother made. And they were growing kale and Brussels sprouts in those. But they were outdoor plants and they didn't have grow lights, but they grew absolutely fine outside. That was kale, sprouts, those sort of things that we've said you wouldn't grow, but you could in that particular system. I can't think of her name now. I'll catch up with her soon. I've read that one. Digwell, I meant using a hydro to start seedlings off to transplant elsewhere. I've got to look into hydro now because you've got me really, really intrigued. Digwell says, Mini Bell, the worst tasting tomato ever. I found that. I found the skins to be really hard with the Mini Bell. They were good if you have no space, though. And you were doing something where you're going to blend those skins down a lot. I think they would be good. Now, actually, talking of Digwell, he did actually send, we've had this video in the past from Digwell, I believe, but he sent it again because it tallies up with exactly what we're talking about tonight, hydroponics. So let's go watch Digwell's video and we'll come back and carry on the conversation.
All right then, guys, just a quick word about hydroponics. Well, it is the subject of the week after all. I'm sure Rich has already mentioned it by now, but hydroponics is the science of growing plants without using soil by feeding them on mineral nutrient salts dissolved in water. And that's direct from the RHS. So in its simplest form, hydroponics can be a plant growing in a pot of inert aggregates, perlite, cocoa coir, clay balls, etc. And you give them water containing a liquid fertiliser, sufficiently that it doesn't dry out, and the spaces between the aggregate contain the air so the roots do not suffocate. That would be, for me, my outdoor hydroponics. Indoor hydroponics tend to be all water-based. Being water-based, the nutrient solution is mixed in with the water, and it's a balance of your usual major ones, NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium and sulfur, and very low concentrations of copper, boron, iron, manganese, molybdenum, zinc, etc. And sometimes there's a few extras added for specific crops, like chilies, for example. Now, this means that for indoor hydroponics, it can never really be truly organic. I tried it last year using organic fertiliser, and oh my word, what a smell. I couldn't place it. I could smell something when I came in the house, like something's gone off, like I don't know, an apple's run under a kitchen unit and you can't see it, So I looked everywhere, and then I got my nose working, and I sniffed it down to my let pot LPH Max, in which I'd used organic feed. I lifted the lid and I nearly fainted. Because, as you know, organics rot down, and that's exactly what it did. And, I'm not doing that again. Okay then, for the hydroponics that grow without a media, without an aggregate to hold the plants, there's a few different types. There's one called deep water culture. This method involves suspending the plant over a reservoir of nutrient solution in inert blocks, or little frames that hold the roots, and the roots dangle into the nutrient solution. And this is probably 99% of all indoor hydroponic systems. All of these types of systems need to move the nutrient around a bit just to mix things up. Some use an air stone, some use a pump. The LPH Max uses a pump, like you can see there, and there's a little baskets holding the roots, and the roots dangle into the nutrient solution. And here's me with my mixed, is it mescaline mix? Yeah, harvested those, fantastic they were. I'll be growing those again soon. I was going to start some chilies off in it, but I think it's actually a little bit too cold in the front room at the moment for chilies, so I'll be doing lettuce again. And that takes us on to the next one, which is a nutrient film technique. And this method uses a pump to create a constant flow of solution through the plant roots. And the nutrient is usually trickled along gently sloping covered gutters or pipes. The plants are held in small pots or cubes of rock wool, placed at intervals along the pipe, and the nutrient just trickles past the roots. A thick mass of roots is formed, makes a nice humid, well aerated atmosphere, and you get very strong plants. This nutrient film technique is used in the big commercial houses. You can see this one here. Look, crikey, how many lettuces are there? I would like to have a go at this. This is one on eBay, actually, 70 odd quid. I don't know if that includes the pump and the tank or not. It must do. But I haven't got the space for it. I would like to try it. I haven't got the space. But you look there. How many is that? Let's work this out a second. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 36. 72 plants. 72 plants in that little setup there. Then we got one that's called a dripping system, and this, as the name suggests, it just drips nutrient over the roots. There's a wicking system, and that tends to be more of the outdoor ones, and the ebb and flow type as well. We'll go into that in a second when I show you mine. This is my auto pot easy to grow system. 3 lots of 2 pots sat on troughs. Big black tank to the side there full of a nutrient solution which goes through the little blue pipe into the Aqua 5 valve. And here is an explanation of how the valve works. It makes it an ebb and flow system. So here it's all coming together now, see? Water flows in on the left hand side through the valve and past the yellow seal, the seat, up to a level of about 20 millimetres. The inner float rises and the outer float starts to rise. The water shuts off, the outer float rises, opens the air valve at the top there. Plants drink the water level drops, air is shut off, which locks the chamber sealed until it glugs out the bottom and opens the water valve again. Quite simple, but very, very effective. Then we got the quad grow system. This is my old style 4 4-pot one, 4 big long pots. And what I've done with mine, I've fitted the mulching caps and a solar kit. I got cocoa coir and clay balls in mine. And when it's sunny like it is here, the solar panel kicks in, the pump starts running, pumps through the pipes down through the drippers, keeps the media nice and damp. So it gives it a little extra boost of nutrients when it's needed, when it's sunny. The other system I got is this LPH MP1 system. Again, it's a tank and a pump. This is battery powered, this one. Pumps up through a trough, trickles down through pipes all the way back to the tank again. And with this system, you can either use the big tall pots on the right-hand side at the top there, and you can put normal growing compost in those, or you can use the shallower pots in the centre at the top, and they can make it a purely hydroponic system. I use clay balls in mine. Very good root system on it. And last but not least, I've got this aqua garden tower system. Basically, the nutrients pumped up to the top, goes through that shower head there, travels through all the different plant pots, which are full of cocoa coir, very, very coarse cocoa coir, and back to the tank. So this makes it a drip system, drip feed system. Pretty good bit of kit, but the turntables see solid, so they're rigid now. I can't rotate the crops around, and very, very pricey. I'm lucky I got them up to sort of like 80% discount. But they're 300 quid at the moment, stupid price. I got one with herbs in, one with strawberries in, and very, very productive. Well, I hope that was a little bit informative for you guys. Such a big subject, could go on for hours. Take care.
Well, I thought it was the same video, the way Digwell was talking last night. I thought he was just going to send me the same video that we used before. It wasn't. Completely brand new one. Thank you so much, Digwell. But as always, gone into so much detail, and it's certainly something we could go into a lot more in detail about. By the way, he mentioned in that video the autopots. You know, I'm a big, big, big fan of autopots. I've got several of the systems now, but if you are looking to buy autopots, I've got a discount code down there on the ticket below. Gives you 10% off. I get 10% as well. So please do go and use it if you are looking at buying the autopot. Digwell says outdoor hydroponics, different story. Anything can be grown. Yeah, I guess we're really talking about the indoors tonight, aren't we? So yeah. Bethan says I bought them as I thought they would be small and couldn't find Tom Thumb. I think Mini Bell are quite small. They're just not. It's the skids I found, but you might find different. And I think Digwell found the same. It's the skids, but you might find different. It might just be us. Digwell says golden pole tomatoes were very nice in mine. That's actually the ones I'm looking at growing in mine, funny enough. He also says it was a new video. Thank you. I did not expect it to be a new video. You really have worked hard once again for us. Scott says, would celery work or other things that are tricky to get the watering right? Excuse me. I'm going to throw that out there for anybody who has experience. I think celery would work, but I think in mine, it's going to be too small for it. But I think it would work. But we'll throw anybody grown celery in theirs. I know that is a tricky one to get right. Jenny says, I wonder if you could grow veg plants on the marginal shelf in ponds, especially fish ponds, as they would provide fertilizer. You could get pot, gravel, no soil pots in the water. So there is aquaponics, which is similar to hydroponics, except it uses fish as well. It's the prepping community, the people that are preparing for doomsday, would have tilapia because that gives them tilapia for eating as well as the nutrients for feeding their plants and the vegetables. So you could, and we've spoken about ponds in the past, and I've got an edible pond where I'm growing watercress and various other things like that. So you definitely could, if that was something you were looking into. But just do a bit of research into it first, but you definitely could. Bedo says, best place to see it in action was Epcot in Disney World. Amazing growth. Epcot, where's that? Oh, Disney World. Disney World, is that US? I've never been there, so yeah. Rob says, great video, Steve, as always. Bethan says, great video, Digwell, very informative. And Digwell says, cheers, guys. Gary says, good video, thank you. Jenny says, good video, Digwell. I use quad grows, says Rob, which is similar to auto pots, but everyone's different. Anna Jones says, excellent video. Digwell says, be careful with organic feed in auto pots. The valves can block up with organic growth. Yes. This is the stuff it comes with. Auto pots is not in focus. All-purpose plant food. They are. I think they are trying to find an organic one that works at the same time, or working on an organic one. I think. Scott says, I know with foraging certain plants you want to avoid if they grow in stagnant water, where marginal areas of stagnant water. Do the same risk apply to hydroponics? Is that what the pump is for? That's what the pump is for. Keeps the water moving. Stagnant water can be very bad because obviously that's where you're most likely to get mosquitoes and things and bugs like that. If the water's moving, it generally keeps it fresher and keeps it alive, and it keeps certain bugs away. I'm not going to say it's 100% foolproof, but that's what the pump does. It keeps it moving. Digwell says a problem a few years back with E. coli in watercress. Yeah, there is a risk of that. There is a risk of things like that, but that risk is in anything these days. Amazing plants there. Talking about that place at Disney World. I've never been there, so I don't know. I'm not lucky enough to go to have been to any of the Disney worlds. But yeah. Have we got any other questions on hydroponics? I can't think of any more. I think you guys have asked quite a few good questions so far, and I cannot think of any questions other than where is the best place to go and get one, or where would be the best, or go have a look at them. As I said, there are hydroponic shops popping up. We've got one down the road from us. Hydroponics, particularly indoor hydroponics and indoor growth, has been a bit of a growth market lately because more and more people are struggling with space and want to grow their own food. A lot of this technology actually comes from the old people who used to grow cannabis in their various areas as well. So there's a lot of technology that's developed from that murkier side of the world. But you know, if we get to benefit from it, then that can only be a good thing. Jenny says, if anyone thinks of growing in a pond, I would add a bio bog filter. Can be homemade using gravel plants that clean water, etc. Yeah, I mean, I got a little fountain in mine that just circulates the water quite well. It's solar powered. It works well. We don't get any algae in ours, so it definitely does work for that as well. The only trouble is it does, if a wind blows, it loses a lot of the water. Digwell says the pump is also there to refresh the nutrients around the roots. Thick surface layer of water on the skin when in cold water. After a minute or two, the water is no longer cold due to the film. Yeah. It's got a lot of good things that are going on. That's what the pump is there for and what the pump does. Roxy's just came into the shed as well. Unfortunately, you can't see her. I'll see if I can get her to come up and poke her head on screen. I don't think she's going to. Right, what's been said? What's been said there? Dickwell says, do not look at what the internet was made popular. yeah. There's a lot of things that we benefit from these days and age that are interesting. Bethan says, I found hydroponics not very good in the spring summer as it got loads of aphids. Mine is only useful in the cooler months. Funny enough, actually, yeah, that's something I did mention earlier, that my basil did get a load of bugs all around it, probably some type of aphid, because it produced this sort of sticky liquid. What I found to be a good way, and I do this a lot with my indoor gardens now, of controlling aphids, was I've been getting quite a collection of what we would call the carnivorous plants, particularly the sundews, which are basically they're bog plants. They thrive on, or they will, if you use tap water, they will die. Use rainwater, but the sundews, they create like a sticky leaf that aphids and things like that get stuck on, and then the plant uses those. A bit like those yellow sticky pads we often find in greenhouses and things. But I think because these are a natural plant, they are better. So I use a lot of carnivorous plants indoors to control aphids, and I find that works quite well. You do need quite a few of them to be effective, but I like them. I do like my carnivorous plants anyway. Rob says, I find with my quad grows, I do get a fine film over the water. That's probably the nutrients, but yeah, that could work. Digwell says, sticky yellow pads, talking about the aphids. Cheers, Steve. And Rob says, sticky yellow pads are a godsend. Yeah, as I said, I go for the sundews. The carnivorous sundews, I find there to be just a little bit more natural, which is what I like. And they love the aphids, and the aphids love the carnivorous because plants are, or aphids are naturally drawn to them because they're not that bright yellow thing that well, actually, yellow plant aphids and bugs will be drawn to yellow, so that doesn't quite work. I just find the carnivorous plants seem to thrive much better with the aphids, so I use those as my way of controlling aphids. But it's the same in my greenhouse and anywhere like that. I've got quite a few of these now, and they work really, really well. Not just the sundews, but I've also got the Venus flytraps and the hollow tubed ones. I can't think what they're called. The dragosias. They all work quite well as a way of controlling flies and pests in my kitchen garden indoors. Right, that's what we got. I tell you what, the Chili sent us a lovely video. You may have seen it in the Facebook group, but I've got to send it to me, and it's their allotment over the year. So let's have a quick look at this video. As I said, if anybody's got more questions on hydroponics, now is the time to get them in. There we go. What a great little compilation there. As I said, right throughout 2024, and I'm doing it again in 2025, take a photo of your allotment, your kitchen garden at the beginning of the month. Put it together like that, and you can see the changes through your allotment, your kitchen garden, right throughout the year. I sort of think of it as being like a slope like that, because it starts off with not very much going on, and it gradually gets better, and then it goes downhill, and then it peters out. But it's great because that is what vegetable gardening is all about. That's seasons. That's what we are doing. So, Chili, that is absolutely fantastic. Please do keep it up. We've loved seeing your photos right throughout the year. I know a few of you, others out there, have also been taking photos on the first of the month. The reason I failed with mine was because my server went down for a few months, and I didn't keep on top of it. But 2025 already started. We're going to do it. I'm going to lead, as I said, do what I should do. Yes, it's a mess garden. Says, I love carnivorous plants. Totally fascinating. I love them too. I mean, I love vegetable gardens. I only grow edible stuff unless it benefits my edibles. And the reason I do carnivorous is because that's a natural way of pest control, natural way of dealing with some of these problematic pests. Brilliant, Chili guys, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant. Great stuff, Kate. Great videos, Chilies. Turbo Stream says, well done to the Chilies. Jenny says, great video. Scott says, great video. There we go. Please do feel free. Each week, we want more videos from you guys as well. You could be showing us what you're doing on your allotment to do with what we're talking about, anything like that. I want you to be the Veg Grower Podcast reporters. Get some reporting going on for the show. Anna Jones says, most companies selling biological controls sell ladybird larvae for aphids. Wouldn't use them in a house, but probably okay in a greenhouse. Yes. I'm actually trying to get more into these sort of biological controls and using the ladybird larvae, for example, for aphids. Would I use them in a house? I probably would, to be honest with you, but I don't really, in honesty, I want to try and get my gardening not in the house as much. I mean, hydroponics, yes, but my seeds and stuff, I want those to be in a new shed that we're hoping to build. Easier said than done. And certainly in the greenhouses, I would stick with ladybird larvae as well. But yeah, it's a great, I think nature is what we need to encourage. We need ladybirds. We need to encourage these things to tackle aphids for us. Gary says, I enjoyed your video. Thank you. And Chili Kate says, one day I'll do one of the 3 years since we've taken on the plot. Please do. It would be great to see it. Completely. Digros says, does anyone recall if there's a carnivorous plant stall at the Malvern Spring Show? I'm trying to think. I went there a few years ago. I can't remember if there was carnivorous or not. I know there is at Gardener's World usually, but most garden centres sell carnivorous plants as well. But I can't think about it there. Andrew says, what is the Autopop banner at the bottom of your screen? It's a discount code if you are looking to buy the Autopot system, which was mentioned in Digwell's video earlier. Basically, it's a type of hydroponic watering system. It works very, very well. I tried it out last year, and we had a lot of success with the Auto 2 Grow. We've now extended that from 2 pots to 6 pots in the greenhouse. We've got the large system and we've got the trays. I found them to be really, really successful. Bethan says, yes, Digra. My husband brought a book from them last year. Okay. And Rob says, to be honest, mate, I did not look. I can't remember it, but it's been so long since I've been. But I know definitely Gardener's World. Great video, says Kate. And Digra says, I'll have a look for my old videos, LOL. I'm sure there would be. I'm sure there would be one at that sort of places. Jenny says, I know there is one at Gardener's World Live. Steve, you must come this year. If he goes on to say, if I do, it'll be for the cooking show. I do want to know, actually, this is I think we've covered hydroponics enough now. What gardening shows is anybody going to this year? I'm trying to collate a list and work out dates that I can go to as many shows as possible. Not easy. I work full time and I have a lot of things on my to-do list to try and do this year as well. But I do want to try and get to some of the shows, and it'd be good to meet up with some of you at these shows. I know we've spoken about it before. Malvern, cool. Thanks, guys. I'll look at Malvern. Rob says, where is Gardener's World Live held? It's at the NEC. Spring is in Bewley and autumn is in Audley End House, Saffron Walden, North London, I guess you could say. Jenny says, Steve, as long as you let me know so we can meet. Yeah, I think it'd be good to meet up with everybody at some of these shows if everybody is going to them. I know I will definitely be going to Gardener's World Live because it's one of my favourites. Might try and go to Chelsea. Might, if they let me. Depends on how the BBC feels about me, because I'm a threat to the BBC, apparently. Even though they let me in at Gardener's World, that doesn't make sense, does it? I'm trying to think of what other shows. Malvern, of course. Hampton Court is another one I might go to, but I think there's a good long list. We probably should do a a good list of shows on a discussion one Sunday. Digwell says garden press event. I wasn't going to mention the press event because there's only a select people that can go to that, but I will be going to the press event, of course. I'll see you there. And Glee as well. Chitty Kate says, I can't do Bewley this year, but I will be going back to the Newbury Garden Show. Apparently, Newbury Garden Show is meant to be a good one, you said, wasn't it? I might go to that. I don't know. Got to work out dates and everything. Obviously, I'm on call one weekend a month, really, every 5 weeks. I'm on call. And if that coincides, which, funny enough, as always, it coincides with Spring Fair and Gardeners World Live. So I have to go on the days that I'm not on call. It's all good fun. Digwell says, go to Chelsea as a member of the public without getting in free. But I can't record anything. That's the trouble. The trouble is I can't record anything if I go as a member. But then I can't record anything if I go as a press pass. But I've got to think about it. Jenny says, love Chelsea, Richard. I'll be your help. I'll see what we can do on that. I'll have to have a look at the dates for the Garden Press event. It's the 18th of February. If you are going, I'm going. Can't wait. I love the Garden Press event. For those who don't know, Garden Press event is where people in the garden press media have a jolly in a place in London where basically brands are trying to get their products seen by the press. So it's a bit of it's a day out. I enjoy it anyway. Turbo Stream says, I was going to Malvern Autumn, but I didn't in the end. Undecided if I'm going to any this year. I think it would be good if we can all try and decide to go to one that we can all meet up with. Then I think it's going to be worthwhile. Digwell says, Glee, never again for me. Told off for filming while all the Asian stands were filming the UK stands. I know. You got caught out there. It's amazing, really, isn't it? You're unlucky there. I mean, I'll be going to Glee again because I get a lot of contacts out of it. So it works for me. But yeah, I think I see why. Turbo Stream says, as a normal punter, they are quite expensive. I get that. No, I do get that. They are quite expensive, and that's something I always try and bear in mind. I think in some ways it's wrong that you have to pay for parking at Gardeners World Live when you've already paid for a ticket. I think that's wrong. Really do. And many other shows like that, you pay for a ticket, that should include parking, food. It's a day out. It's a day trip out is way I look at it though. Jenny says, you can take photos, etc. One YouTube channel took videos last year, but waited until after BBC had changed this week's programme. Have a look. The rules may have changed. They haven't changed. So this is going to probably bore everybody, but for Chelsea, the BBC has, what's the word? They have the right to broadcasting anything at Gardeners World. Now, as a YouTuber or podcast or anything like that, even other radio shows, if you were to go there and record anything, you have to pay £500 for the privilege of recording something. Not worth it. Not worth it. So you can report on the event. You can probably take photos, but you would be on dodgy ground. And trust me, I've known them to kick people out for taking photos and stuff. So it is dodgy ground, but we've got to go to Chelsea one year. Why are you throwing out a Glee? Well, I'll get out and stay out. Rob says, years ago, I was at a construction and mining show in Germany. I thought World War III was going to break out with people filming. It is quite bad. Told to stop or I would be. Yeah, you were unlucky there. You could have filmed them throwing you out, Digwell. You were very unlucky like that. Trouble is, I saw loads of people go around with cameras and stuff and phones and things. So it is a bit of a weird one. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We have got the cook-along because you set me the cook-along for last week. So don't forget, I need ideas for what to cook next week, as well as a mission, a challenge I can do over this coming week. But this week is the cook along. Okay, we are back cooking in the kitchen. The first recipe for this year is going to be bubble and squig that you guys chose last week. Quite a simple recipe and uses up a lot of those leftover food from Christmas dinner, which I'm sure we're all getting sick of. So let me show you what we're doing and we'll get cooking. So what I've got in this bowl is a load of leftover veg, peas, sweet corn, carrots, cheesy leeks and cauliflower cheese. I'll put them all in a bowl and then we're going to mix it all together. Just here I've been chopping up some roast potatoes that were left over. These I think are quite an essential part. Now go in the pan with those, like, see if I can do this one-handed. There we go, like so. Now we need some meat. So I'm using a mixture of 3 different meats which I have chopped up. We've got gammon, lamb and turkey. These are all just going to go into the bowl. And I've pretty much used all, I think that's about enough, yeah. I've used a lot of our potatoes this week in this because as of the new year, and I've said this before, I'm not going to be eating carbohydrates, so potatoes need to be gone. So these are all our vegetables. I'm going to give this all a good stir. Make sure it's all really mixed in quite well. This is, I think, a British tradition, the great Christmas leftover meal. And let's not forget, well, I haven't actually got any sprouts left over. Should have sprouts as well, because that's quite an important part, but we don't have any sprouts left over. So we've gone without. That's mixed up quite nicely. As you can see, it's now time to cook. So I'm using quite a big, almost like a wok pan. I've got some olive oil in here on a medium heat. That's nice and moving around the pan nicely. So we're just going to pour this bowl into here. Like so. We could of course add fresh herbs if we wanted, freshen it up a little. But I'm not going to bother because I just want to use this all up. And what we've got to do, just sort of gently fry it, but at the same time push everything down to squeeze it into place. And what we really want is for this food, the bottom of the pan, just to catch a little, just to slightly char that up. Now I think this because I've made this so thick and big, we may have to actually put this in the oven for a bit for it to heat all the way through. Probably wouldn't do as much as this normally. This is, I've gone a little bit overboard for this, but we don't mind. And I'm just going to, I don't want to waste anything, but I'm just going to try and push it down a little bit more with a flat spatula as well. Bit of seasoning, and we'll cook this for a bit and see how it tastes. Okay, so it's made. It does look like a bit of slop on the plate, but I think I made it a bit too thick. All depends on how it tastes, however. The important thing.
Very, very nice. Got to say, not the best thing I've made, but it uses up leftover Christmas dinner. So I'm going to give that a 7 out of 10. Right, back to the studio.
Indeed, back to the studio. And yeah, as Digwell says, coward for not flipping it. I'll be honest, where I went wrong with that, I used a wok pan. I made too much. I just wanted to get all those potatoes and all that veg used up because we hate waste, and I just needed it all used up. What I should have done was actually used a frying pan and made 2 or maybe 3 bubble and squeaks out of it and then frozen the rest. But it got rid of all our vegetables. We didn't have any Brussels sprouts, which I think was quite an important thing. But it used up all our leftover vegetables from our Christmas dinners and all the meat and stuff. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It did need the Brussels sprouts. If it had the Brussels sprouts and I'd done it correctly, I would have given it a higher score than 7 out of 10. By the way, I'm going to start rating these recipes each week. So let's come back to the comments. By the way, don't forget to make your suggestion for something I can cook for the next week. Jenny talking about Chelsea. Photo it is then. Sure, you could do photos. There's a lot of accounts I follow show photos in a vlog. I'm not going to pay £500. That's the only thing I'm going to say. Digwell, the banner is annoying. I did turn it off. Sorry. Love Bubble and Squeak, says Rob. Don't we all? Jenny says, P.S. Can I take P.S. I can take photos of you at Chelsea. I will look into it. I will look into it. Bubble and Squeak is essential the day after a race. Totally. Sure is. Jenny says, I love Bubble and Squeak. I made a Bubble and Squeak burger once. Oh, that does sound good. Far too many carbs, but delicious. As I said, I'm off the carbs. I am back on I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to lose 5 stone is my ambition. I want to see you turn it over, Richard. I didn't. It's like rice pudding. Stir it a lot so everyone gets some skin. Yeah, there was a bit of skin in it. There was some skin in it. It's just too big for it to really get all the way through. But lesson learned. Flip it, flip it, flip it. I love rice pudding. The skin is the best part. I haven't had rice pudding in ages. Oh, rice pudding. Stop it, Digwell. Made raw milk rice pudding. So yummy. Oh, lovely. Scott says, I've been doing different Scotch eggs without pork at work. Bargee, Scotch eggs, etc. You've just given me another idea. Bubble and Squeak Scotch egg. There you go. Oh, they taste great, Scott. There you go. Oh, love it. Love it. Jenny says, Scott, I'm happy to sample it for you. I'm making freeze Bubble and Squeak patties. That's what we've done with some of ours, which is what I should have done. Damn. Getting close to the end of the financial year, so cook your books. Jenny beat me to it. Benno says, surprised there was no onion. I was literally doing that from our leftover Christmas dinners because I had 4 Christmas dinners in total, and I was fed up with it. We had all that leftover food, and that's all I wanted to use up. But yeah, make a suggestion for something I can cook for next week's show. And Rob says, my wife does a nice rice pudding about every 2 weeks. Good for the calcium. Love, yummy, yummy, yummy. My sister, who never was much of a cook, but she once she had kids, she became quite good at cooking, actually. And her rice pudding was the best, I have to say. I'm going to have to get her to make that someday, actually. She did it in a slow cooker, if I remember correctly. Always a roast onion or 2 in my roast dinners. Yeah, I had roast onions in mine, but they were used in the stock. So, yeah, again. Jenny says, challenge, talking about natural pest control. What about making a ladybird nesting box to fit in beds, bed and breakfast lodgings? Okay, I like that. Can you make a note of that, please, Jenny? That one. And Scott says, cook for next week rice pudding with a fruit compote. Okay, can make a note of those. If everybody agrees with that, a ladybird nest box and rice pudding to cook for next week's show. And Rob says you have to use full fat milk. We always have full fat milk in this house anyway. I think I've said this before. We go to milk dispensers here that we have locally, where basically the local farmer fills up fresh organic milk in these dispensers. You can go 24 hours a day and take a milk bottle and fill it up. It's not too badly priced either. We really enjoy it. It's all full fat milk, so not a problem there. No carbs, going to be hard to pick something to cook. How about cauliflower cheese? Rob says yes, rice pudding. Yes to rice pudding with fruit compote. I may make an eat along one. Scott says, could do one with coconut milk for a healthier option. No, I'm fine with milk. It's the rice that might be the problem. But if I'm good and I go for a run, then I could probably earn that rice pudding. That's how we're going to have to try and do it, I think. Now, talking of missions and challenges, last week you did set me the challenge of getting or planning the alternative veg grower show, which we didn't do last year, but in 2023 we did do it. It was a lot of fun. The basic idea is that we're going to celebrate the successes, the failures, and the bad stuff that goes on with vegetable garden. So I have written a few notes and made a few plans on how we are going to do this. The competition date is going to be the 19th of October, so I'm going to need everybody's entries by the end of September. There are currently no prizes. That might change, but we will figure that out nearer the time. But the categories are, how it simply is, it's all done on trust, and you send in a photo depending on the categories. I've got 11 categories so far, which I think will be enough. I looked at what had the most entries last time and went with that. So the first one is the most obvious cheat. So I think one of the ones was showing the Digwell sent a photo of a potato on top of scales of a tomato, trying to prove that the tomato was heavier than anything else. A cheat photo, most obvious cheat. Bit of a laugh. Second one was the lightest photo, and we want a lightest potato, sorry. So the least weightiest potato. We want to see that on a scale, just a photo of that on a scale. The smallest tomato. We want the smallest photo of your smallest tomato with a 1 penny piece for scale. Ugliest vegetable. We're going to leave this to the show, to the audience to decide what is the ugliest vegetable of all the entries. Simple enough. Just take a photo of your ugliest vegetable. 5, the smallest squash photo. So your smallest squash, be it a pumpkin, a butternut squash, maybe even a cucumber or something. The smallest one, again, with a 1p piece. These will all be on the website in the not too distant future, so it's not a memory test. The biggest fail, now this again is going to be an audience decide, but your biggest fail of the year, we want to see that. Or it doesn't have to be a photo of this one, it could be a story. The most gnarliest carrot, so the most twisted and roots going everywhere for the carrot, that would be what we want. The most pest infested plant. So this doesn't have to be one of your own plants, but if it's got loads and loads of pests on it, we want to see a photo of that. Number 9, this is one I've added in myself. Who can produce the most amount of compost? Again, this is going to be a hard one, but just tell us how much compost you've produced between now and September. The muddiest boots, a photo of the most muddiest boots. And finally, the most battered wheelbarrow. So a wheelbarrow that's really been hammered and taken a battering. That's what we want to see. These will be on our website. We'll probably pop it on the Facebook page once it's all ready to go. But it's not a memory test. But Is that mission accomplished? Next question. Now, we have got about 5 minutes of this show to go. Obviously, I don't expect you all to remember that, but 5 minutes of the show to go. Now, there was a subject we came up with last week, something to do with tomatoes. Can anybody remember what it was? Was it something like your favourite tomato variety or something like that? I can't remember what it was. Rob says yes to rice pudding. Jenny says yes to rice pudding with fruit compote. I've read that one. Could do with coconut milk for healthier option. So many carbs in rice pudding. I know there is, but I've got to word it. Next week's topic is something about tomatoes. I can't remember what it was though. Don't try and balance. I will go for a run with eating. You will lose. No, I'm going to go running every morning, jogging every morning. And if I do that for the next 7 mornings, I've earned that small bowl. It's going to be a small bowl of rice pudding. That's how I'm going to do it. Or I don't eat the rice pudding and Amanda has it. I'm like the devil on this. I'm like the devil on your shoulder. I'm of carbs. Me make rice pudding. Yeah, you are probably right, but I've got to earn it. Exactly, on a losing streak without starting. But yeah, you are making it hard. I would win the latest potato. Excellent. Pop these classes on Facebook, etc. I've forgotten already. Don't worry, it will be out there. Won't be probably for a couple of weeks once I've drawn it all up properly. Turbo Stream, if you do the veg show, you need to be organised. I know. Last time a few of us sent photos in that got missed. Yes. No, I know. I've learned a lot from that Turbo Stream. That's one of the biggest complications, and I want to be more organised and try and figure out how we can do it a bit better. That's why I haven't gone live with it just yet. Good idea, Digwell. Rob says 10 ton of compost. Mission accomplished. Thank you. Digwell says, hope there is not a class full of worst harvest from an attic. You'd win hands down. Variety of tomatoes. I think that's what we're going to discuss next week. Variety of tomatoes. That would be great. Jenny says she can help organising entries, etc. If that helps, that would be great. I know you work a lot. That would be absolutely fantastic. I think I'm going to have to create a separate email address for this, to be honest with you. Thanks, Paul. Tomato varieties, outdoor, indoor, what people enjoy. Yep, that's it. Absolutely. I think that's what we would do. That's what we're going to talk about next week. Varieties of tomatoes. Richard's too busy for his own good. You sound like my wife. Thanks for the show, Richard. Night, everyone. Good night, Andrew. Take care. A run for the pudding. 200 press-ups for the chocolate. 100 chin-ups for the donut. Get my drift. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. As I said, basically, I'm not eating carbs mostly during the week. Sandwiches and things like that are out the window. A lot of salads and stuff. But you've got to have a cheat day as well one day, I think. So we'll allow it for that. Thanks for Sis Hargrave. £10 payday on its way as a sweet. Already bribery going on. Thanks for another great chat. See you all next week. I haven't gone for your photos yet. Digwell says only having a dig. No, I know. But you are right. You are right to kick me up the arse for that, because I have said, and I need to lose weight. And you are right to kick me up the arse for that and keep me on the narrow. But let's quickly go through your photos. There's not everyone. There's not a huge amount. So we'll quickly go through your photos. So first of all, we've got this photo, which let me just move it over onto this screen so I can see a little bit better. The chilies, they've got a new addition from Bargain Corner. This was a red currant that has no label. I think it was something like £5. They got it anyway, and I think it's going to do quite well. You know, I do love the Bargain Corner. Jenny still has a few bits growing in her garden despite the cold, including this lovely looking chard. We've got loads, and the cold is doing wonders, I think. Digwell has a rather novel way of disposing of the Christmas tree, and that's to wrap it up as shown and then throw it in a skip and see what happens. I would also say, disposing of a tree or something like this, one of those big industrial tree shredders would do the job just as well. Stuart's completed this rather good book. It's from Francis Topel, A Year in a Small Garden. I've not read it myself, but I think it might be a book we check out soon. And last week, Gary's concerned about his broad beans, particularly the black bits at the bottom, which is just a sign that frost has hit them. Nothing to worry about because the rest of the plant looks absolutely fine. So please do keep sharing your photos, post them in our Facebook group, send to me via social media, or email me, richard@theveggroundpodcast.co.uk. That's richard@theveggroundpodcast.co.uk. Right, it is 7:30, so I better get ready to get out of here. If you have enjoyed this show tonight, and I hope you have, hope you've learned something about hydroponics. And if you haven't done hydroponics yet, then perhaps you're going to look into it yourself. If you have, then please do give us a like. Please do give us a follow and a subscribe. And don't forget to click the notifications so you know when we go live. Right, I'm going to wrap this one up for tonight. We will be back again next week for another Sunday where we're going to be talking about tomatoes. We're going to be creating a rice pudding and we're going to make a ladybird hotel. Lots of things that we need to do, but all good fun. Right, guys, you take care. I'll speak to you again next Sunday at 6. Have a good week.